Welcome to this week's episode of Just My Opinion. My name is Jeremiah Sirles. I am your host, and we are here because it's Monday night, and that's what we do. Appreciate you guys all chiming in here. And again, this is a live interactive broadcast. So if you guys have questions, if you guys have concerns, if you guys want to challenge my thoughts on any of this, trust me, we are. I'm here for it. I really want you to do it. I want you guys to be there. I want you guys to make sure that this is a show for us, because I don't do this just to hear myself talk. I do this to get the pulse of Husker Nation. I want to hear what you guys' thoughts are in the game, because we probably have a lot of the same thoughts, but we also have a lot of different thoughts. It's getting harder and harder to stay positive every week. Right out of the gate, I want to do this show. I want to be positive. I want to be a guy that is there for this team. I want to be a guy that has no unwavering support for this team. And I will say this, my support has not wavered. Has my criticism gained? As I am now entering the media, just a little bit, I think. I think that being where I have been with the media and how that's all gone down, I look at it through a little bit of a different lens, but I look at it as a very critical lens because I like to break things down. But I also know that I will never at one point not support, and I will never at one point question these kids' buy into this program. So with that being hit, let's do through a rundown real quick of what the show I've got for you tonight. So, as we know, Stanley Morgan was supposed to be my guest tonight. Stan totally realized he had a rookie dinner that he's going to have to go pay for. So as much as I'd like for him to be here tonight, rookie dinners come first, because when you're a rookie in the NFL, you have duties, and one of those duties is to do the rookie dinner, or else bad things happen. So Stan will be able to join with us tonight. So as always, we take a look at the 4 keys to victory, and we see how Nebraska stacked up. It's a weird 4 keys this week, because you look at it and you go, Nebraska probably should have won that game when you really look at it objectively and on paper. But as you know, Nebraska likes to find creative ways to lose games, so we're going to take another look at that. Again, Derek Peterson joins, writer for Hail Varsity, does some phenomenal stuff. He's going to join. We have a nice conversation with him about where he thinks the state of the Husker program is at. We'll look at the questions in that you sent during the week on Twitter and Instagram. We'll answer as many of those as you can. Again, during the show, please continue to ask questions. Please continue to dive deeper into a look. We take a look at the post-game conference with Scott and Adrian. I got a couple clips I want to play for you guys that I think were really important. If you haven't seen those yet, let's break them down a little bit more. We talk about what a bye week can do for a team. We saw the Huskers come out of the bye week against Indiana a couple weeks ago and where they were as a program. You got a second bye week here with just 2 weeks. You get a little bit more time to self-scout, self-reflect, and kind of reestablish your base of where do we go from here aspect to it. And then lastly, we take a look at my expectations for these next 3 games. What is everyone's expectations for these next 3 games going through? And then we give our game balls out, and we'll be out for the rest of the hour. So let's do some quick hits right off the get right here. Is Adrian Martinez the answer for the future? That's question number 1 that I've been getting from a ton of people all week. And my take on it is this. Yes, Adrian will give us the best chance to win in the future. So much of us want to do win now, and I get it. As a player, you want to win now. As a coach, you want to win now. And as fans, you want to win now. But you have to understand that this is a long season. This is a long rebuild. You're looking for consistency. You're looking for stability. And I can tell you the one way you don't have consistency or stability is to create a quarterback controversy every single year. Not saying a quarterback competition needs to be out every single year, but a controversy where it usually turns into pitting one guy against another in the media, which doesn't usually spill over to the locker room. But with the way the media is and as saturated as the media is, at times that's kind of just how it works. And that's just kind of how it goes and how it works. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about that. I'm fixing my camera here. Appreciate that. Sorry about that, guys. And the one thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Adrian is next week I'm going to do a full breakdown. We have bye week next week, so we have a full show. I'm going to do a full comparison between Noah Vedral and Adrian Martinez. We're going to look at those guys. We're going to see what really are the comparisons between those two. What are the differences? And we can really take a more critical look at that. So be sure you stay around next week for that. But this week, we got to talk about the Purdue game. So going into the Purdue game, the defense is still struggling to find answers. And they're struggling to find answers to stop the quarterback run. Furry Boats, did you jump in here and say, please restore my sanity? I'm grasping at straws with you, brother. I'm trying to find my own sanity. I sat there on my couch on Saturday just in almost disbelief. I watched the television. I stared at the television. I was like, is this really happening? Like, is this really how Nebraska is? Is this really our competition level? And as much as it sucks and as hard as it is to swallow, the answer is yes. The answer is the Huskers competition level has now fallen from the Iowas and the Minnesotas and the Indianas even, to we now need to compete with the Rutgers, Marylands, Illinois, and Purdue's of the world, because that is where we are now in the Big Ten. And golly, does it hurt me to say that. I never in a million years thought that I'd be saying that, especially with just the program history that we have, and just with the players' attitudes that I've been around these guys. I thought we were a very talented team this year, but it shows you that talent isn't everything. Discipline, execution, all of those things come into it when you're talking about winning football games, and Nebraska just hasn't been able to do that. So until we get that fixed, we're going to keep losing games in the fashions that we do. And the way you get that fixed is you knock out your penalties, you rush the ball better, you convert on third down, and you don't turn the ball over, which is the 4 keys to victory we talk about every single week. So let's dive into that. So you look at the penalties. Nebraska actually a really clean game. Probably our cleanest game penalty-wise that we've had. We only had 3 penalties for 30 yards. That's a really good... If you can get out of a game with 3 penalties, you're looking to be like, okay, we're going to win this game, or we're definitely going to be able to compete in this game and give ourselves a shot to win at the end, which we did. Purdue, on the other hand, had 10 penalties for 89 yards. That's a bad game. That's what Nebraska usually is staring in the face. Usually Nebraska at the end on Monday is looking at the stat sheet going, man, penalties again. Penalties weren't necessarily what got in our way this game. Yeah, there was a couple, I think it was a hold. The block in the back sucked. But other than that, for the most part, very clean game on Nebraska's part. So win Nebraska, Nebraska wins that category. You then go to the next important part. And we talked about this on the show last week. Purdue has struggled against the run this year. They have struggled. They've allowed big-time rushers. They've also struggled to run the ball. This was a category I thought we were going to win going away with this week. I didn't think it was going to be a question. I thought the Huskers were going to have a big day on the ground. I thought the Black Shirts were going to have a big day stuffing the run. And that wasn't the case. And Nebraska rushed ball 35 times for 128 yards. And that's not good, guys. We talk about week in and week out. If you want to be a winning program in the Big Ten, you got to rush ball for 200 yards or more per game if that's what you want your identity to be. So 128 yards rushing is not good. Purdue was 36 attempts, 145 yards rushing. Arguably the worst rushing team in the Big Ten. Possibly the worst rushing team in the Big Ten. We allowed to come and rush on over our Black Shirts defense for 150 yards, basically. And what's really upsetting is what was average per carry. So you look up what I would call an efficient run when you're breaking down film. An efficient run is 4+ yards or more. That's from the great Tony Sperano, rest in peace. He was my old line coach up in Minnesota, and he would come in and he would give us our run efficiency and our pass blocking efficiency on offense. And if it was a clean pocket, it was efficient. If not, it was inefficient. If it was +4 or more in the run game, it was efficient. If it wasn't, not efficient. And I look at our average per carry. So Adrian had 12 carries for 58 yards, 2 touchdowns, big physical runner, which I enjoyed, at 4.8 yards per carry. He was an efficient runner. He was our most efficient runner. In fact, he was our only efficient runner. The next top guy was Wan'Dale Robinson, who had 14 carries for only 29 yards, so he was averaging 2.1 yards per carry. That's not efficient, and those are negative plays. Negative plays to me are +1, +2. That's a negative play. You need to be going +4, +5 in order to be able to be successful while running the football. And when you look at our defense, what has been the key thing that's really hit, besides Minnesota shoving it straight up our butt the whole game, what's really hurt our defense has been the quarterback run. And when you go back and you look at what started the quarterback run process for us was really Illinois. Illinois is what started and kind of opened Pandora's box necessarily for us, and we're still trying to figure out how to stuff everything back in the box. And I mean, Jack Plummer, hats off to that guy. He played a really solid game, especially for a freshman. I mean, Purdue across the board is young, a lot like us, and they just beat us straight up. They had a freshman quarterback, came in with 12. See, he had 12 carries for 61 yards and an average of 5.1 yards a carry. Again, efficient runs. Efficiency is the name of the game on offense. And at the end of the day, Purdue was more efficient. Maybe they didn't lack the big play abilities that we had. We had the big plays, but we just overall on the day weren't very efficient. And that's going to be something I want to look at for the next 3 weeks. And I know Scott's going to look at it. I know offensive crew's going to look at it, is what can we do to become more efficient on offense? And that starts with controlling the line of scrimmage and running the football. So again, Nebraska loses that. So we're 1-1 in the keys to victory right now. Nebraska rushes for 128, Purdue 145. Now here's another key thing that we talk about every week: third downs. the money down, as you refer to it. It's where defensive ends get paid for sacks. It's where offensive tackles get paid to hold up in pass protection. And it's where as a quarterback, you become elite, okay, average, or bad. And I think the big thing right now is you look at our third down efficiency. We were 6 of 16 for 37%, which isn't good. And I was like, okay, well, let's do a quick case study. I keep track of this every week. Let's look back on it. So I went back and I looked at our last 4 games: Purdue, Indiana, Minnesota, and Northwestern. As an offense, we are converting 37% over that span of time. We are 24 of 64. Not good, guys. And it's consistent. It's a consistent thing. It is a consistent basis based off the fact of we get ourselves into trouble on first and second down, and we get into third down, and we are putting way too much stress on a receiving core that lacks talent and a quarterback that lacks confidence. And that's a recipe for disaster when you're looking at third down. Flip it, go to our defense, and our defense allowed Purdue to go 8 of 14 with a freshman quarterback, 57% conversion rate, because I'm adding the 2 fourth down conversion rates into ours. On offense, we went 1 of 3 on fourth down. So in all actuality, we were 7 of 19 on conversion downs. On offense, on Purdue on offense, man, they third downs, they were third and manageable. They converted a few third and longs. So I was like, okay, let's do the case study on defense. Let's look back and really see what's going on defense. Well, from, again, Purdue, Indiana, Minnesota, Northwestern, we've gone 1 and 3 in this stretch. We've lost to Purdue, we've lost to Indiana, we've lost to Minnesota. We beat Northwestern. Our defense is allowing 50% conversion rate, 49.8, I believe it was, 28 of 57. That's enough to make a defensive coordinator go insane. And everyone's calling for Chenander's head, but Chenander's not the problem here, guys. I really don't think it's Chenander. I think it's the lack of overall ability to rush the passer and having to get creative with blitz packages, and also the lack of overall execution of what is being called. So we have 57% against a struggling Purdue offense, freshmen all over the place, is really unacceptable, especially when you talk about letting that quarterback come in at the end of the day and go 6 for 7 on a final drive when we turn the ball over to the Huskers defense after going up, and he marches them right down the field. Our pass defense, in our rush lanes and our pass defense are one and the same, and both of them right now are just not very good. So Nebraska loses there too. We're now 2-1 in the keys to victory. You now look at turnovers. The one nice thing Nebraska did on Saturday is they didn't have any turnovers. They had 1 turnover, which for me is a plus, especially when you got Adrian running the ball, throwing the ball like he is. He's been a turnover machine a little parts of this year. Good to see him be a little better decision with the ball. The interception was a bad decision on his part. He stared the receiver down the whole way, and it was not good. He threw the pick. But what's nice is the defense is able to make that turn into 0 points. The black shirts showed up in the first half. They said, nope, not letting you get going, not letting you go, turned it into 0 points. Purdue had 2 turnovers, and essentially I'm going to call them basically 3. The blocked punt with the field position that it set us up in should have been considered to me like basically a turnover on downs. Here's the problem. We capitalized 3 points. What I talk about it all the time, we have to steal possessions as an offense. We're not good enough to put drive after drive, go down the field and score. And we had the possessions. The defense played well enough. They got us the ball. We had a chance to put our foot on Purdue's throat early, and we had a chance to just drive it into the dirt and never give them life again. But the offense just wasn't clicking early in the first half. I don't know if it was Adrian not being fully healthy. I don't know if it was Adrian not trusting himself. I don't know if it was Scott not trusting himself. It was off. I think that's the only way you can put it. Nebraska's offense was off, and we couldn't put it away early. It should have been 21-0 about mid-second quarter. And you go 21-0, it starts to teach these kids how to put teams like Purdue away. But these kids don't understand how to do that yet. And from top to bottom, they just don't quite understand how to do that yet because they haven't done it. And that's not something you can coach. That's not something you can preach. It's a feel thing. It's a killer instinct feel, which we're still developing killer instincts on this football team, especially offensively. We seem passive at times, almost playing not to lose, not just with our play calling, but also just in our play. Guys scared to get hit, guys maybe not wanting to hit the hole, make something happen. So that's something that we got to get fixed as we move in there. But again, so Nebraska wins the turnover battle. We don't convert with it. So we go 2-2 here. But the big difference for me is Those two things, the third downs and the rushing, are both on both sides of the ball. Not just, they have to get better for us to win games. Yes, if you're plus in the turnover margin, yes, if you're plus in the penalty margin, you should be able to win games. But the problem then becomes the lack of execution. That's what it comes to running the ball and third down. That's all you can do. You can say that. You can dial up the coolest schemes in the world on both sides of the ball for that. You still got to execute it. And overall, Nebraska just hasn't been able to execute in crucial moments, key moments of the game. And that's where we're falling short. So the quarterback play is going to be a topic of discussion. It just always is. But the problem now is Vedral came in against Indiana and against Minnesota and looked promising. So now there's going to be this, well, should we put Vedral in? Does he give us the best chance to win? I don't know. Answer me, guys, because I'm grasping for as much as you are. You tell me. Tweet me, Instagram me. You tell me what the solution is, because I don't know. I still think Adrian gives us the best chance to win. I still think Adrian is the more talented guy, but I don't know if he's the right guy right now. Is he? Is Adrian the right guy right now? What this 2019 team needs? That's a question that we have to worry about, because he played all right, but he played bad in the critical moments when we needed him the most. I talked about the overthrow after the block pick to Noah, caught by Noah. That should have been 6 points. Easy 6 points. I've seen him make that throw a bunch, but again, he launched him high, which has been the problem for this year. He had the missed a stole that was an easy 6 points. Granted, we scored on that drive, but still, those are the type of things that make a quarterback great or make a quarterback average. And right now, he's a very average quarterback when we know he has greatness in him. And we're all just waiting to see where that greatness is going to go and when's it going to pop back out, because we've seen it. 2018, Adrian was awesome. 2018, we thought Heisman hopeful. But guess what? He's human. Humans stumble. He's stumbling right now. And I think Scott in his post game said you got to wrap your arms around guys. That's probably where we're at with him. So bye week, get some things for him to work on, simplify his mind, keep him in the box, don't let him get the outside noise. And I think Adrian's going to be just fine leading this team, but I think he does have a little bit more of a leash on him than he did at the beginning of the year, strictly off the fact that Vedral's playing so well. Our defense is still yet to put together a complete football game this year against talent. I mean, they allowed 449 total yards of offense to a backup quarterback, freshman, backup running back, freshman, and oh, by the way, they didn't have their best player in Rondale Moore. Black shirts need to play like the black shirts all the time. They can't ride the roller coaster. Right now, they're very much on the roller coaster. They only had one sack, and they were 4-4 in the red zone, Purdue was, and scoring touchdowns. And so that just can't happen. They dominated the time of possession in 33 minutes, which goes back to converting third downs and staying on. So by the end of the game, when that fourth quarter drive was ready to go, our defense was tired. They've been on the field a lot. They've been rolling a lot. It's hard for them to jump off and on and off the field like that. And we ran into that problem last year. But that's part of the tempo offense. Is you're never really going to control the time of possession if you go up tempo. You're never really going to be able to look at there and say, hey, I have the ball for 35 minutes a game when you go up tempo. And so your defense has got to be ready to that. I mean, the lack of tackling was just horrendous. I mean, missed tackles all over the field. Not only missed tackles, this was the first time I have questioned effort under the Scott Frost regime. First time. I've always said, there's no quit. Even getting our teeth kicked in by Ohio State, we didn't quit. I thought some guys turned it in a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to call guys out by name because I don't believe that, but there's plenty of film out there. There's plenty of clips out there that you just see guys not hustling. I mean, defense is 80% want to and 20% scheme. Offense is, I'd say it's a little more 50-50, but defense is 80% want to. How much do I want it more than the guy across from me? That's something I thought that this Husker defense under Scott has always done really well, but we just haven't seen that dog, I guess, from all 11 guys at all times saying, you know what, enough's enough. We're not doing this anymore. And I'm just waiting to see that. I mean, they're going to have a great test. Wisconsin's going to come here kicking and steaming and ready to roll in here in 2 weeks. So we better get our gap integrity figured out. We better get the Davis brothers ready to roll. Khalil Davis is by far our best player on the up front seven. He's a disruptive force. Darian Daniels showed flashes. He had the nice pick. He likes to get a little creative in his pass rush moves, which gets him in trouble with voiding the middle of the pocket. But it's little things like that we got to figure out and we got to keep rolling with. So I don't know, guys. It seems like it's the same song and dance every single week. It seems like we're talking about the same things every single week. That's because they haven't gotten fixed. And you look at it and you're starting to wonder, like, when is it ever going to get fixed? There's only 3 games left in the season. The season went by like that. I mean, it's over. The 29th season is over. We are not going to a bowl game. I don't think we're going. Again, this show is titled Just My Opinion because these are all just my thoughts, but you can tell me if I'm wrong. You think we're going to a bowl game, you tell me how. You tell me how we go to a bowl game because now, if I look at this schedule, I do not think that we go to a bowl game. And so we're going to talk more on this. We're going to talk a lot on this. I want to bring in a friend of mine, Derek Peterson. He's a great writer for Hail Varsity. He is someone that I respect a lot. We talked a lot last week on his piece on Chase Young. And so he joins the show tonight. Derek, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. We're good to go. So, Derek, we just got done talking about Nebraska's third down defense. And they've been struggling all year. You've been watching this, man. What has been our biggest problem on third down for the Huskers, for the Black Shirts? Why can't we get off the field?
You kind of talked about it a little bit when you were talking about some of the read option stuff. It's putting Nebraska in bad positions. They haven't quite figured out, I don't think, how to defend the quarterback in the read option thing. But that kind of goes back to, do you have, do you feel good about your outside linebackers? And that's bleeding over to third down.
Mm,
Because when you start looking at what teams are doing against Nebraska, not just on third down, but overall, like Big Ten teams right now have really kind of figured out that the weaknesses at the linebacker level. If you can kind of isolate Nebraska's inside linebackers and pass
yeah.
coverage, be it man or zone, you're going to get a completion and you're going to get some yardage, and that's what teams have started to do against Nebraska. And it's Purdue was no different. It's just find the inside linebacker in coverage and throw it to the guy that is being semi defended by him, and that had to do with a lot of it, and a lot of it too is. If you want to get back into that Chase Young discussion, it's
Yeah.
Nebraska doesn't have much of a pass rush right now because its outside linebackers aren't really doing well. The one play, it wasn't a third down, it was a 2nd and 8.
Mm-hmm.
It would have set up a long third down. Alex Davis had Jack
Oh,
Plummer dead to rights in
dead
the
to
backfield, and he
rights,
just
man.
couldn't. Yeah, he just couldn't make the tackle. And that's kind of been Nebraska's defense in crucial situations most of this season. Like they're in the right spots. Um, and then they just can't make the play. And that's kind of been like I hate to say it, but that's kind of been Davis's career. It's kind of
Mm,
infuriating, not infuriating. It's kind of frustrating to watch because he has all the tools. He looks like he could be that kind of outside linebacker that Chenander wants in this defense,
mm-hmm.
but he just hasn't been able to make the plays. And it's not just him. It's everybody. I didn't think JoJo Doman had
Mm,
a
I
game
would
up to
agree.
his standards that he's been playing. I know I'm not talking specifically about third down like you asked, but
Oh, please.
you talked about effort a little bit and how you thought like for the first time that was waning. I do wonder
Is it
if
wearing
maybe
on
there's
them?
a little
Is it
bit
is
of
is the season just wearing on these guys to where it's hard? Do you think? I mean, the effort piece is so it's uncoachable, and Scott talks about it all the
yeah.
time. Like, do you just think that the grueling part of the season is just wearing on these guys?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of it. I think it's a lot of like, because some of the guys that are playing on defense right now are guys that have been through the last 2 4-8 seasons, and
Right.
if they weren't playing like in Markel Dismuke's case, he wasn't playing in that 2017 season, but he was here.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys have been through this and they've seen this and they've seen what this looks like, and I think there's a little bit of it where it's like, "Oh, no, is this happening again?" And you don't have to be, like,
Yeah.
afraid of that, but the second that thought comes into your head, it's almost kinda done for you. I do wonder too if there's a little bit of, maybe hard feelings between the offense and the defense, and this isn't reporting on my part, this is just kind of speculation. If you give your offense the ball at the 2-yard line,
Yeah.
that the offense needs
Yeah.
to score.
You're expecting
But
7 points
but,
out of
I
them.
mean, you are, and 3 points is a letdown. I mean, 3 points if for Purdue's offense or for Purdue's defense, excuse me, to go on the field at its own 2-yard line and to only give up 3 points, that is a huge win
Mm-hmm.
for that team. And that sideline is feeling it. And on the opposite sideline, it's like, okay, what just happened? Like we just gave you a perfect opportunity and you couldn't capitalize on it. And that was kind of the theme of the entire first half. Nebraska only being up 10 nothing at the point that it was up 10 nothing was a problem. You look at the first 9 drives of that game for Purdue, if you take out the 2 scoring drives, Nebraska's defense gave up 3 first downs on the 7 non-scoring drives, and they had 2 takeaways and they had 3 3 and outs. That's fantastic defense.
Absolutely. And Scott nailed it. Scott said the defense played well enough to win in the first half, and we should have been 21 nothing. But the problem is this team doesn't seem to be able to. Okay, defense figured it out for the whole game. Now it's like offense is finally starting to roll, and it seems in the fourth quarter. Why is it that Adrian seems so hesitant to run the football? In the fourth quarter, he seems like he gains a momentum speed. It happened in Illinois. It happened this week. Is it play calling? Is it him being hesitant? Or do you think Scott was trying to just test and see if he was ready? Why didn't we see more of Adrian Martinez in between the tackles or even just to the edge in the first half?
I think Adrian's thinking too much.
Okay.
I think there's too much going on in front of him. You know, reading a defense and reading some of the secondary stuff that a defense does has never been his strength. It is not a strength right now. Kind of, I talked to people in the offseason and they were kind of optimistic or bullish about his ability to improve in that regard, and there hasn't been much progress made. You know, some could argue that there's been regression made in that regard, and I think I think you hit the nail on the head when you said he's not playing with confidence. Um, he missed the throw to Jack Stoll down the seam,
Mm,
where Stoll was open, and he had to kind of drop it in because there was a defender trailing Jack. And I think the defender he like tried to jump for the ball. I don't know if he tipped it or what, but Jack had to jump for it as well. He missed that throw. It would have been a big completion. It maybe would have been a touchdown. And I was kind of watching Adrian immediately after that throw, and he just kind of dropped his head and he kicked the ground and he was kind of waving his arms like, I can't believe I just missed that. Like, I can't believe I'm missing all these throws. He's not playing with any confidence right now. And I think the biggest issue with him, I was reading through some of the comments on your
hmm
Twitch stream, and Grand Cookie made an observation that I agree with wholeheartedly. It seems like he's trying to overcompensate for everything else that's going wrong in the offense. If you look at and it's not just Adrian, it's almost every guy that touches the ball. They feel like they have to make the home run play every time they get the ball because there's so much pressure built up to try to fix what's going on with this offense. They're just trying to get 20 points on one play. And I think Adrian is the perfect example of that. Like he feels the pressure to make the big play, the splash play, the home run play every single time he has the football. And I think that's why you see like that fourth down where he's got 10 yards in front of him to take off when they
Right.
roll the pocket, and instead he throws back across his body to JD Spielman. He's looking to try to make a bigger play. He could have taken 7 yards running, gotten out of bounds, gotten the first down, and instead he tries to make the 20-yard play, the big completion to JD Spielman. It's like it's a combination of not being comfortable with your ability to diagnose what you're seeing while also feeling like you have to take it all on yourself.
Right. Again, if you guys are,
And the thing
go ahead. I was just saying, guys, if you're just joining me here, we got Derek Peterson of Hale Varsity here on the show. He joined with us. Stanley couldn't make it tonight. He has to do rookie dinner. So we got the next best thing, which is Derek Peterson from Hale Varsity, very similar in stature and size. So Derek, as we move forward, here, there's 3 games down the stretch. Is bowling for this team possible? I say no. I don't think there's any way we win 2 out of the next 3 to go to 6-6. But maybe I'm just in the negative, downer, feeling sorry for myself. What do you think? And if we do, who do we beat?
I mean, anything is possible.
Well,
Like,
yes, yes.
Illinois beat Wisconsin. Like you can kind of figure it out and it can click. I mean, you can flip the switch almost whenever. I don't think Nebraska's going to beat Wisconsin. I'm really worried about that game.
I'm
It
scared.
basically comes down to
I'm scared.
because the stuff that Nebraska struggles with, Wisconsin should be able to break. The game that you look at is Maryland. I don't know if Nebraska's going to be favored in that, but if you go into that game, you're 4-6.
Mm-hmm.
If you win that game, or yeah, if you win that game,
You'll be 4-5.
I mean you're
No, four and
five and
six. Five
six.
and six. 5-6. Math is hard.
If it's fine, it's late in the season, it's
Yes.
late in the evening. If you win that Maryland game, what you set up is a Black Friday home rivalry game against Iowa, in which a win sends you bowling. I mean,
That sets up
that's
pretty
a
good.
kind of a good situation. Yeah, it's kind of a good situation to be in. It's a lot of pressure on a team that hasn't handled pressure well, but it's at least a good situation to be in. I don't think it's likely that Nebraska. I think it's more likely Nebraska misses a bowl than it is Nebraska makes a
If
bowl game at this point.
if
But if you beat Maryland, you've got everything on the table for you.
so, if we do go bowling, what you say? We're hoping for what, Christmas in Detroit? Is that the hope? Christmas in Detroit? Maybe the organic chicken bowl out in San Francisco. I mean,
Yeah,
and what's sad is I don't even necessarily want it as much for the bowl game as much as for I want this team to get more practices. I think
yeah,
that's
that's the big
that's a
thing.
huge part, and we got to get the young guys reps. I mean, the red shirt counter you guys have going over there at Hale Varsity is awesome. Who do you want to see over these next few weeks that maybe gives us a snapshot into the 2020 season? 'Cause that's what these next 3 weeks are. These next 3 weeks are just, hey, what we're tinkering with what we got for the future. We're also keeping some guys on some red shirts. Who are some guys on your list that you want to see come out and have good outings here against top quality talent, especially against Wisconsin, Iowa, of this 2018, 2019 recruiting class?
Yeah, this is going to be right up your alley, and I'm curious what you think about this. I don't see any harm to playing Bryce Benhart right now because if you look at all of the returning production that Nebraska's going to have next season, and they're going to have a ton of it, maybe more than any other team in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many of those guys are going to return with permanent or entrenched starting jobs, and I mean, that's no more true than on the offensive line. Like, they're gonna bring back all 5 guys next year, and I don't think anybody has a starting job locked up heading into next season. So, what's the harm to playing Bryce Benhart against Wisconsin?
Where?
Is he physically ready for that defense? No, he's not physically ready for that defense. But if your plan with Cam Jurgens was to get him ready for the long term, so you wanted to get him that bank of reps now, the same plan should be in place for Bryce Benhart because you know, a game against Wisconsin can do a lot. As long as it doesn't wreck his confidence, it can do a lot for him because he will see some of the best, and he'll learn how to handle it in a game environment.
So where do you play him?
That's a guy.
Who do you replace right now? Who do you say, you know what, we're putting you there, or maybe who do you shift? I mean, I think that if we're gonna put Benhart in, I think you stick him at right tackle and you throw Farniak, maybe get him some reps at guard. Maybe you
Yeah,
see what Farniak can do. Maybe you take Hickson, who struggled the last few weeks, throw him at guard. I know my buddy Old Road Mokes chimes in here, says, can we talk about the mediocre lineman play? Like you said, they're all back. I mean, I think Hymas probably has
yeah,
that left spot locked down. Bando came in and played all right against it. Jurgens is going to be a guy that is a mainstay. If they didn't replace him yet, they're not going to. But I think the left guard and right tackle spot are where we might see a change. I think we might see get Farniak in there at left guard, let him get some reps there, and like you said, let Benhart maybe get a couple series. I'm not saying start the kid, but I'm with you on the fact of what is the harm of getting him meaningful reps so that if his plan is for you to be the starter walking into 2020, he's not walking into Memorial Stadium, or he's not even walking into Maryland for the first time being a starter. He's got some serious games under his belt. Another guy I want to hear your thoughts is Ramir Johnson. I think you might as well. I mean, with the absence of Mo Washington, what's the harm of letting a guy like that go out there and see if he can give you a spark in the run game?
I think the problem with that, I mean, I think he is a casualty of coaching staffs trying to figure out how to manage this new 4-game redshirt rule. I don't
Okay.
think Nebraska has quite figured out the correct way to utilize this 4-game redshirt rule. And I think case in point, him playing one play against Purdue, burning a third game, and him not being even involved in the play. It was strange when it happened. I'm still
I
kind of
didn't even I
scratching my
didn't
head
even
to
notice
figure
that.
out. Yeah, he played one play,
Oh,
and that
jeez.
used up his third game. He's got one game left, and that really complicates the situation. I mean, at this point, you really can't burn his red shirt. Like
No, absolutely not.
you you need the year. So that really kind of muddies the water in the running back room. I don't really know what you do there, but I don't think like you would like to see what Ramir looks like, but maybe save him for Maryland, and try to get him maybe a couple series or something like that.
De-
I would be more curious to see some of the freshmen at wideout.
okay. What about defensively? Is anyone on? I don't follow. I know Garrett Nelson is a redshirting. I think he's been a nice surprise. His effort's fun to watch on the field. He runs around like Bobby Boucher, the water sucks type mentality, and I'm all right with that. But as far as talent wise, who in this young class do you think can make a difference for us right now on defense?
I don't know if there's anybody that can make a difference at this point. I think if you're putting guys in, it's basically to do the same thing that you would do with Ben Hart.
Mm-hmm.
So Garrett Nelson and Quentin Newsome and Luke Reimer, the freshman walk-on linebacker, those are the guys that have burned their red shirt already on
Okay.
defense. You've still got some games to play with Noah Pola Gates.
Yep.
You've still got some games to play with Miles Farmer. Um, those are two guys that you could look at. I really want to see Ty Robinson get some action. He
Yes.
hasn't played a game yet this season, but Tony Tuioti is pretty high on him and said that he's kind of knocking on the door of that 6-man rotation that he has on the defensive line. He should get in at least one game. He hasn't played a single one this season, which is somewhat odd, but they've got um, guys that were playing well on the defensive line, so you can kind of explain it away. But some of the guys at defensive back, especially if Cam is still sick, um, try to get a game or two left with Pola Gates. Try to get Miles Farmer in there. I know Travis Fisher's pretty high on him. Um, those would be a couple of the guys that I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the fact that guys are not going to be difference makers right now. I think, but as we have just talked off camera, we've talked that Scott's in this for the long haul. He's in this for, and I'm next week. I'm going to take a look at the 2020 season, but first glance, it doesn't get any easier. We better be 6-1 walking into the end of October. Or we might not go to a bowl game, but I won't keep you much longer here. I guess give me some quick hits as far as what you want to see out of the 2019 team over the next 3 games.
Oh boy. I want to see if there's any progress that can be made in the traditional ground game. I'm not talking about running the quarterback. I'm
Okay.
talking about running a running back. That's been a disaster this season. Trying to find consistent production from the running back spot, and that it's a little bit offensive line, a little bit running back. I want to see if Nebraska can figure that out a little bit. I want to see if Nebraska can find some time, some space, some reps for some of the younger guys on defense that I just mentioned, like Ty Robinson. And I completely forgot about Nick Henrich. Barrett Ruud loves him, and we haven't seen him yet this year. Maybe you see him in the Maryland game or
Yep.
something like that. I just want to see. I want to see progress because there's Nebraska started the first year under Frost 0-6. They closed at 4-2. They began this second year 4-2. There's a very real possibility that they close at 0-6. Like after this
Yep.
Purdue game, Brandon Vogel, my editor at Hail Varsity, wrote that it kind of seems like we're back to square one. It kind of seems like there hasn't really been any progress, and we're 2 years in. I want to see that change over these last 3 weeks, and maybe that's just guys come out and make it a game against Wisconsin. Like none of us expect them to win,
The
but
old, the old
if they
moral
don't
victory.
get beat by 30, like if it's like a 17-point win and like it's a 17-point loss, excuse me, and it's
Yeah.
Nebraska shows signs, and then you go out and you beat Maryland. I think that's some growth. I think that's some progress. And I was talking to our recruiting guy about what does Nebraska sell on the recruiting trail right now. If you can close strong, not necessarily in the record book, but in terms of how it looks on tape, if you can just close strong and show that hey, we are making progress, I think that'll go a long way.
All right, man. Give the guys, people who are listening, quick rundown, some stuff we can expect come out of Hail Varsity here in the next few weeks.
We got basketball stuff starting up. We've got our basketball issue that's going to be coming out late November. It's going to be all previewing the men's basketball team and the women's basketball team. We'll continue to do some football stuff. One thing that we really want to look at over these last 3 games and into December is kind of do a deeper dive on what went wrong, on stuff that maybe go a little bit behind the scenes more than we can in season. Really look long and hard at what's going on with Adrian, and just kind of continue to try to make sense of why this wasn't what we expected.
Absolutely, man. Derek, I really appreciate you jumping on the show. Great stuff from you, and we'll get caught up soon.
Appreciate you, bud.
Absolutely. Take care, buddy. That's my buddy Derek Peterson over there off hailvarsity.com. Go give him a follow on Twitter and Instagram. He pumps out great content all the time. I want to get to a little bit here on this next segment of some questions that you guys shot over to me on Instagram and Twitter. For one, Andrew asks, like, what about our defense is banged up and the scheme seems awful? The scheme is not awful. 3-4 scheme is very simple. The problem with the 3-4 scheme, as we've talked about over and over and over again, is that it takes certain key talent at key positions, and we don't have that. So making the swap from 4-3, 3-4, 4-3, 3-4 does no one any good. You just got to take your lumps as you make the transition and realize that it's going to come down the stretch a much better product at the end of it all when it's all said and done versus recruiting 4-3 personnel and stuffing them into a 3-4 defense, recruiting 3-4 personnel, shoving them into a 4-3 defense. It's not interchangeable. You can't go back and forth. You can run some under and some over out of the 3-4, but if you want to run a true 3-4, which I think is what Chenander wants to run, you got to make sure you recruit the right spots for it. Another question I got from a guy on Twitter says, does this year the team finish 0-3? Very real possibility. What do I want to see from this team if they finish 0-3? Derek hit on it. And the question, what I want to see is who shows their true colors, who shows they're really actually just going to flop over and here's my yellow belly, here's me just quitting versus I'm fighting, I'm scratching, I'm clawing all the way out of this, and I'm going to come out of here even if I'm a senior, I'm going down swinging. And so if that's what I see from this team for the next 3 weeks, I'm all right with that. If I see the same team that I saw against Minnesota and Purdue, I'm not going to say Indiana, I thought we competed. I didn't think we competed well against Minnesota and Purdue, and that's disheartening. I want to see us go out there, and I want to see us compete. Coach Frost had a lot to say post-game, rightfully so. He had about a 6-minute press conference, talked a lot on getting things fixed. He talked a lot on some play calling, but he had about 4 really key points that I want to dive and take a deeper look in. Let's take a listen here on some of the things from Coach Frost's post-game press conference.
In every single game, there's play callers you wish you made differently. So we'll look at that and figure it out.
Scott, how do you think Adrian played?
I thought Adrian did some good things. Again, I need to watch the film before I make a comment on something like that, but I thought he did some good things and certainly missed some things.
Let's talk about that. He said play calling and Adrian. Those are the 2 hot button topics. Those are what everyone wants to talk about. The play calling, is going to be a little harder for me to digest because as an offensive lineman, I look at, okay, what's this play calling really look like? And I want to just run the ball over and over and over again. And I got thrown into a tweet. I rage tweeted, happens to the best of us. And I tweeted out there, like, I don't question play calling much because I'm a firm believer coach, players play. But I said, if we're getting the ball on the 2-yard line, why do we just run it up the gut 3 or 4 times in a row? And I still feel that way, but I want to make it very clear. I do not question Scott's ability to lead this football team on offense. I question and as a coach, you understand, I've had many coaches come up in front of me and say, you know what, as a team, like I screwed that up. And I bet you Scott, if he had a second crack at it, yeah, hindsight's 20/20, he would probably say he screwed that up. But I want to be very clear, at the end of the day, it is on the player's job to execute because guess what? I guarantee they watched film, they had a plan, they had a red zone plan, they had a goal line plan, and that was their plan. Not my plan, their plan. So Scott said it. He had a plan going down on the third. If it was going to be 1st and goal, he knew what they wanted to run. He knew what they had to do. There was just no execution.
Yeah, I remember that sequence. We studied him all week. We had a little shovel pass to Wandale dialed up, and we missed a block on the backer that took it away. Then on 2nd down, we ran an RPO. They switched it off. We need to either hand that off or throw it away and not take the sack. Then we get it down to the 1-yard line. At that point, I want to go up 2 scores, and we kick the field goal. But that wasn't the only drive. There was other drives where we had chances and missed blocks or missed throws. Coaches and I have to do a lot better job continuing to look to put our guys in the best possible situations that we can, and so we need to get better. And at that point, we just got to make some plays.
At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, guys. It comes down to Coach knows it. And when I hear Coach say things like that, it really makes me realize, does he trust fully to execute what he has called? Or is he trying to get schemey again? He talked about after Minnesota, we have to rely on our run game on scheme. The shovel pass is a scheme thing. Line it up and say, I have a 235-pound quarterback, I'm just going to sneak it, is an attitude thing. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more Adrian. I mean, Adrian he said he was good. He said he was good to go. I'm sure Scott was a little hesitant, but he didn't play fantastic. And he didn't hide from it either. But the physicality on the goal line is something that the best thing for us right now is quarterback run. And I think that quarterback run on the goal line there is probably the best opportunity for us to score. Adrian seemed to say he was good to go, seemed he was healthy. But what I love about this kid is he's a young leader. He doesn't make excuses. And he really knows what's going to be the best for this team going forward.
Again, I take the blame. A lot of those plays should have resulted differently if I would have done my job the right way and would have executed to the fullest of my ability, and I didn't do that today.
What did you guys find late in the fourth quarter when you had 2 straight touchdown drives?
You say that again?
What did you guys find? You guys got going late with 2 touchdowns.
You know, I think we know what we're capable of as an offense. It's just a matter of piecing it together. And along with that, I feel like I started making some better throws and executing my job, and the guys around me had a good game. You know, I think offensively the guys around me did their job well. It was me. You know, I missed some throws, and you know I'll take the blame.
That's what you want from your quarterback, but it goes back to my last segment with Derek and Cookie. You nailed it. I think he's trying to do too much. I think he's feeling the weight of the world. He's feeling the weight of, man, this offense is just stagnant. This offense is just struggling to get going. I have to do more than I should. And it's a very real thing. I've dealt with it all across the board. Every wide receiver, quarterback, running back, defensive line, linebacker, you try and say, you know what, no one else is doing a play. I'll do a little bit more. I'll do a little bit more. And Adrian, he looked healthy to me. Everyone wants to say, oh, is he banged up? Is he hurt? I mean, for me, Adrian looked healthy. He's a great young man, and I really think that going into the bye week, he needs to have a better week of practice. He needs to just have a consistent week of practice, because the problem is he wasn't taking the 1-rep snaps. I don't care how long you're out. He was out of football for 3 weeks. It takes some time to get him rolling back in, but we don't have that luxury anymore. So hopefully through the bye week, he heals up even a little bit more, and he's also able to get back into that rhythm. So going into the bye week, a lot of things can happen. Scott Frost, I've been part of lots of bye weeks. I've been part of bye weeks that have been really, really hard, been really, really nice. I mean, you're winning, they're easy. When they're hard, they're character building moments. So I think that this bye week, there's a ton to work on for the Huskers. Let's hear what Scott wants to see from his Huskers over this next week off.
You know, there's 3 weeks left, but we have to keep doing the things that we know how to do to get them better. We got to block a little better, tackle a little better. Throw the ball a little better, catch it a little better, cover a little better, because, at least 3 games this year where we didn't do anything a little better, and the result's different. So that's all I know how to do.
That's what he's going to do. That's his message. I think it's a great message. It's clear. It's concise. He tells his football team what he wants to do. The lack of tackling is starting to rear its ugly head again. The lack of assignment and technique and alignment on defense is killing us. Those are all very fixable things, but you can only fix it through repetition and through hard work. You can watch it on the tape all you want until you do it in live bullets. It's not going to work. This bye week gives us an opportunity to reset, refocus, and go for it. I know on bye weeks, it's usually they go good on good. It's fine. That's good. Get the competition up, get the level up, because when you're running cards over and over again, it gets repetitive. But having 2 bye weeks this close together also is good for the overall team health. We got some guys that are sick. We got guys that are nicked up. If you can get healthy, I don't think we go 0-3. I think we beat Maryland. But you're looking and you're staring of going 2-3 over the last 3 games of the year as a stretch. But that can't happen unless the culture's right. That can't happen unless everyone's bought in. And that really can't happen unless you have the right guys leading at the right time. Scott's at the helm. The message starts with him. In our last clip here, let's hear Scott Frost talk about what he expects from his team, from his leaders, and from his coaching staff.
The team, and the vast majority of our team plays for each other, and they play for their brothers, and I don't think we'll have any trouble keeping the team together. If we have 1 or 2 then we have one or two. But, I came back to Nebraska to get this fixed, and I'm going to do it, regardless of what has to happen. And if there's anybody that doesn't need to be here to make that happen, and that's the way it has to be, I hope every single one of them stays on board and does what we need to do. But we're going to get it there. I won't let anything else happen.
He said it, guys. He's back here. He knows what a process he grabbed on. He knows the project he signed up for, and he knows that it wasn't going to be happening in a day. Us as Husker fans want that to be the case. We want it to happen today. We want it to be now. We want to be the best team we can possibly be, but it's just not there. It's just not how it works. It's just not how it's going to happen. We are going to have to grind this thing out. It's going to be an absolute grind, especially as fans. But the one thing I will tell you, we need to support these seniors and we need to support these guys because that's the last bit. They deserve that from us. They deserve our support. They deserve 90,000 strong sitting in Memorial Stadium for Wisconsin and Iowa. As ugly as it may get, they deserve that because we are Husker Nation. That is what we are. We show up on Saturdays yelling and screaming and supporting. Can we be critical? Hell yes. Can we be upset? Hell yes. Does that mean that we come down on kids? No. Does that mean that we call for coaches' heads firing? No. That means we yell "Go Big Red" at our loudest and support these kids through these hard times. Because like I said, Nebraska State's saying, it's not for everyone. Husker fans, it's not for everyone. We are special for a very certain reason. That's because we show up and we love on these kids. So as we enter the bye week, a lot of time to reflect, a lot of time for these guys to focus on what they do. I have some quick hit thoughts here on what I want to see. The game's at 11 this weekend, by the way, I believe. I don't know if it's officially set yet as you ask what time the game is this weekend here in chat. But there's three things on each side of the ball that I think you really can get better at over a week. Rome wasn't built in a day, but there's certain things you can definitely get better on during the week. On offense, I think we need to get physically on our offensive blocking. I'm talking perimeter-wise, and I'm talking offensive line-wise, because it takes all 11 guys. It takes the running back hitting the right hole. But I saw a glimpse of that coming out of the bye week against Indiana. I thought the O-line came out, played really strong, played really well as a group. And then we took a step back against Purdue. We have a chance now to regroup, get back together on that bye week, and come out with our hair on fire against a Wisconsin team that is the best defense in the country. And I think we need to play our best game just in order to keep Adrian or Vedral or whoever's back there healthy, because that's a great defense, but great opportunity for these guys, especially some of these guys that want to play in the league. You better show up against the best talent. We also need our fundamentals on offense back to our scheme that's been working for us. I think coaches need to do a little self-scouting, look at, okay, what is our most productive, our efficient runs, as I talked about earlier in the show. Efficient runs for me, 4 yards or more. Find what those plays are and just start running them over and over again. I mean, quote from Remember the Titans, man, it's like Novocaine. You give it enough time, it's always going to work. You just constantly got to do it. And the sad part is that's quarterback run. But if Adrian's healthy, he has to do it. If Adrian is healthy, that's our offense will only take us as far as Adrian takes us. Kenny and I had a little bit of a spat on Twitter about my use of the words regardless of his health. Mine means saying regardless of his health, meaning if he tells the coach he's healthy, we have to be able to use him in his full complement of weapons. If Adrian is not 100%, I think Noah Vedral is better than an 80% Adrian or an 85% Adrian. If Adrian is 100%, he's our best chance, but we have to use him as a run-first quarterback. So I think scheme-wise, we got to get back to that. And then on offense, on defense, the three things are super simple. Tackling, effort, gap integrity. All three of those things can be fixed with a simple, the first two especially kind of go hand in hand. Tackling and effort go one hand in the other. If you want to be a great tackling team, have 11 guys to the ball every play. Don't have it be one guy and two guys watching or two guys hustling, one guy watching. Great teams gang tackle. And for the most part of this year, we've gang tackled, but for whatever reason, the last few weeks, it seems that it's only getting two or three guys to the ball, maybe getting one guy to the ball. And with the missed tackles that we have, with the aggressive attack defense that we have, we need everyone rallying to the football, whether a freshman or whether you're a senior. Play with the effort and the energy that Garrett Nelson has, number 44. You play with that kind of effort and energy, you're going to win a lot of football games. The gap integrity stuff is more scheme. We still, for whatever reason, have a hard time in our run fits. Granted, Cam Taylor-Britt not being in really hurts. Sullivan's a great kid. He lacks overall athleticism in the back end. They're playing safety, and he missed a couple really important run fits. I mean, I think Eric Lee's a guy that we need to step up, see more out of him. Dismuke's playing it fairly well, but our linebacker play has struggled here towards the end of the year. We put a lot on tape early in the year. Guys are scheming us up, and it's the same scheme. So I think gap integrity, the biggest part's going to be that we need to hit our run fits the right way. If we don't hit our run fits the right way, teams are going to continue to gash us, especially a gap run team like Wisconsin, who's going to run power, and their whole thing is get one guy out of your gap, and that kid, Jonathan Taylor, is going to take it to the house every single time. And then, what am I missing? I want you guys to tell me. Tweet me in. Tell me right now, what do you think should be top 3 priorities on offense and defense on this bye week? I'm gonna jump to one more segment here on my final thoughts before I jump back to that, but I want to give you guys a chance to digest that, think about it, and really come back to me with what are 3 things on offense and defense that you need to allow to get better, that you think we can improve on over the next week. My final thoughts on this week, guys, are the quarterback play. You got to play better to win. But again, I'm not calling for Adrian's head yet. I don't think that's the right thing to do, but I do think he's on a shorter leash than he was at the beginning of the season. On defensively, we need to find ways to put full games together. We're doing great things early on, or we're doing great things late, but we're not doing good things all around. You can't allow 450 yards from an offense, a Purdue offense who's supposed to be an inferior talent, with young guys come in and carve up our defense like that. It's just really something you don't like to see. It's really something you don't hope to see, especially as black shirt defense. Consistency in the coaching staff is going to be key for the building of this. You can't have coaching turnover like we've had. And I'm not just talking about head coach. I'm talking about assistants. Everyone says fire Chenander, fire Austin, fire XYZ. That does no good. 3 things to build a culture. I have it written down here. I didn't get to it earlier, but there's 3 things that I think are super important when it comes to building a culture. And it's a consistent message, leadership in key positions, coach and player, and belief in those leaders. We need all 3 of those right now. We don't have all 3 of those. We haven't had the consistency. We haven't had the culture. And I don't know if every player believes in this culture, because you know what? If I'm a senior, I've been here for 5 years, 2 coaching regimes, really recruited by a 3rd, it's going to be hard for me to buy in. It's going to be hard for me when times are tough like this to be like, man, do I really want to grind it out like this? Or do I just want to do my own thing and I'm out of here in 3 weeks? That's what Scott's fighting right now. Scott's fighting that mentality, because guess what? The only people on this Husker football team that know what it's like to win games consistently are the guys that just came out of high school. Those are your winners right now. Those winners right now are those Luke McCaffreys, Wando Robinsons, who were the best players on their team in high school and led their teams to state championships or deep playoff runs strictly on their own. Those are the only guys that know what winning really feels like on a consistent basis. The seniors don't remember what that feels like. It's been a long time since they felt that. Those seniors and juniors are struggling to find that. It's up to the freshmen and the first and second year guys to carry the load on that right now and keep everyone else in line. And then also, don't let a few bad comments, don't let a few bad players taint the whole well. This team is a close-knit group. This is a good football team that's going to take time to build. They're just bad right now. I'm a firm believer. I think that they will be a good football team. They're just bad right now. They struggle, and they're learning. But the only way you get good is through experience. You got to take your lumps. You got to take your bruises, and you got to get back up on the horse and just keep going. And just again and again. And when you get knocked down, get back up. But us as fans have to remember that this is a process. Stay with it. Even myself, I can't allow myself to get so frustrated that I'm calling out coaches on Twitter. That's not the right thing to do. I'm the first to admit that. I sent that tweet out, not thinking about it, just angry, and then I ran with it, and I was like, man, I respect Scott too much. I shouldn't be doing that as a former player and as a Husker fan. Trust the guy. I trust him, Scott. I trust you, Scott. If that's what you saw, you knew you tried to put your players in the best position to win. The inner O-lineman in me screamed, but that's all right. So, last thoughts here. We got the game balls on offense. J.D. Spielman came up with some big plays for us. 6 tackles, 123 yards total on the day. He had 3 rushes for 28 yards. Got a little creative with him in the backfield. We're going to need to use more of him down the stretch. These next 3 games, we're going to win. That's another guy with NFL talent who I do think is bought into the Scott Frost regime. He's had some great success in this offense. But I want him to be a guy that wraps his arm around Adrian. He's like, you know what? When things are tough, when things are hard, lean on me. Come to me with the ball. We'll make things happen. Because he is a special player with the ball in his hands. On defense, it's Khalil Davis, 7 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1.5 sacks. The guy is our best defensive player up front. He's an NFL type talent player. We're gonna miss seeing him next year, but he needs to take a leadership role, not be getting personal fouls, not mouthing off to the coach. He needs to take a leadership role and step up and help be a staple on this Blackshirt defense if they're looking to get this ship turned around and set the same way here in the next few weeks. Guys, I want to take a couple questions here right before we left. McFly Guy says, why is Ramir Johnson for one play and risk burning his red shirt? I agree. I think the red shirt rule this year, the 4-game red shirt rule, our coaching staff hasn't handled it great. We burnt Luke's on one play. We burnt Ramir's on one play. Other guys have played, and they weren't even really consistently in the game. I think if you're going to burn a shirt for a guy, hand him the ball 5-10 times, let him get some things. If you're going to burn him on defense, let him play 15, 20, 30 snaps. So we haven't necessarily handled that extremely well as a defensive front. So, guys, that's the show for this week. Like I said, I'll be back next week. Gerald Foster is going to be my guest. He was in this offense last year. He understands how it runs. He understands what it needs to run. So he will be my guest next week. I do a quarterback comparison. I'm going to give our grades. I did the first quarter of the season grades. I'm going to give my second quarter of the season grades as we go in the last 3 weeks here. As always, follow here on the Twitch channel. Subscribe if you have a Twitch Prime sub available. Would love for you to subscribe to the channel, help it grow, help it get more notoriety. Also, follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And also share the show if you enjoyed it, guys. Trying to grow the show here, grow the branch, grow this community that we have made here. So appreciate you guys. Go Big Red as always, and enjoy the bye week. Watch some good football. I know I'll be watching LSU, Alabama, and also we'll be interested to see how Minnesota stacks up against Penn State. Those are the 2 games that I really want to watch this weekend. So have a great week, you guys. Go Big Red, and as you always remember, it's